Akwabo, welcome back to Diana's channel. Kofi Anku is ready for my one-on-one. Let's learn more about this real estate developer who I refer to as a real estate mogul. Kofi?
Yes, ma'am. Morning, welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you.
It's an absolute pleasure, Kofi, to have you on my channel. I first saw you and heard of you by a YouTuber who did an interview on you back in 2020. And I said to myself, when I get to Ghana, I would love to have a convo with this Kofi. 1 year and 3.5 weeks later, I'm here and you're in front of me. Again, thank you for affording me this opportunity,
My
Kofi.
pleasure.
It was really short notice, right? Reached out to you, and within 48 hours, we are here. Kofi, I have quite a few questions to ask you, right? And I'm going to try to condense them. There may be some in-depth answer that will be needed. And I'm glad that you're a jolly good sport, because Diana's channel is unfiltered, unedited, and unscripted.
Excellent.
So we just have to flow, right?
I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, great. Kofi, please share with the audience, where were you born?
I was born in Cleveland, Ohio, in the U.S.
Cleveland.
Born and
Ohio.
raised. So I did all of my schooling until university in Cleveland.
Born to Ghanaian parents?
Ghanaian parents, correct. Yeah.
Why destination Ghana for you?
So it was a gradual process. It wasn't something that I knew that I was going to do from the beginning. But the more time I spent in Ghana, things just made more and more sense. My degree, actually, what I studied when I was at University of New York was African American studies. So looking at Black literature, looking at Black history. So it meant a huge amount to me to be in a Black country, the first independent African nation, and to be part of the development story in a meaningful way. There's a lot of purpose to what I do here, and I've got a huge family here in Ghana. So growing up in Cleveland, where it's kind of more of a nuclear family, where you've got just your mother and your father and your siblings, but to come into a country where literally we've got hundreds of cousins and aunties and grandparents, that density and that network and different languages and foods just really spoke to me.
So you had, that's the edge that you would have over many of us coming in from the diaspora, is that you were connected here by your immediate bloodline.
Absolutely.
So you have a relationship here prior, and you visited Ghana as a youngster,
I didn't spend much time here as a kid.
but you visited.
I did. I came for the first time for my Aunt Gita's wedding when I was 11. So I was here for Christmas holiday, about 3 weeks, and it made a huge impact.
From the age of 11.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely.
And guys, when I was growing up, we were told, and I still believe so, the first 10 years of a child's life, that's the foundation right there. You can make or break them mentally. Their memory is very on point. It's truly amazing what they can remember the first 10 years of their life as they get into the 30s, 40s, 50s going on. Kofi, please tell me, when did you move to Ghana fully? What year, if you remember, please?
I was back and forth quite a bit in the early 2000s. And I could come and go I was actually in New York at the time, and I could come and go to Ghana 6 times in a year.
Okay.
So at one point we were involved in a manufacturing facility in the Shy Hills. So I basically had a house set up here. I could travel to Ghana with hand luggage, stay for months, go back. So at one point it just made more sense to spend more time here. And so it was a gradual process. It wasn't a specific day that I decided, well, hey, I'm going to pick up sticks and move. It was gradual, kind of a seamless transition.
Okay.
And at some point I just started spending much more time in Ghana. Yeah.
What was your background in the States?
So in the U.S.,
Your business background?
I actually started working in Ghana while I was still in university.
Mm.
Yeah. So my father started investing in real estate in Ghana in the mid-90s. So from 95, and actually that's when I graduated high school. So I spent some time in Asia, in Korea, and I ended up spending some summers here with some of my friends from university and helping out with the family business. So that's how I first kind of got my feet wet.
So the family business has always been real estate?
So my father's a retired cancer specialist, but both my mother and father have always been invested in real estate, even in the U.S. So they were pretty heavily invested in Southern Florida. So we had a sense of the real estate business. They owned a lot of rental properties. My mother managed the rentals and managed she had an interior design background as well. So all of that kind of rubbed off on all of us. And when we saw opportunities to get involved in Ghana, it actually wasn't clear as a kid what, we had these lovely rental properties, and my father started buying this land in the middle of what looked like nowhere. So you could imagine even now some of the places are difficult to get to, but dirt roads, no electricity, and I didn't see the logic then. And but then with a few years and you're seeing all of the growth and appreciation.
Thank God for Dad. He was a visionary.
Absolutely.
Right. Kofi, how long has your developments been on the ground?
So what we started off doing was actually selling plots. So I'm sure with your experience in Ghana, you've heard that buying land can oftentimes be very challenging.
Yes.
Sometimes they're sold to multiple owners. Sometimes the title has issues, encroachment, court cases. So the focus in the beginning was just on cleaning up the titles, working with different lawyers to make sure the documentation was solid, fending off challenges in the courts, sometimes putting a few different pieces together. So you'd buy from different families and put all the pieces to aggregate the land, and then get a town sheet together, put in a little master plan, access roads, and then sell to individuals who want to build on their own.
Mm-hmm.
So we started with more of a service plot approach, and then with time, the land became more valuable, and we could use the land as equity for joint venture projects and actual development. And that's the direction we've been heading in over the last 10 years.
Over the last 10 years.
Yeah.
It's fair to say, I mean, your name speaks for itself. You have a vast knowledge of the system in Ghana, especially as it relates to building practices, land leases, indenture. Can you tell me a bit about, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, i.e. Mensa Park?
Mensa Park, yeah.
Could you tell us about that particular project?
Sure. Yeah, it was a fun project. We built 200 units in a community called Mensa, which is a suburb of Accra, just at the base of the mountain before you climb into Aburi. I don't know how much time we've spent in Aburi, but it's lovely, and I think Jamaicans tend to really love a green.
That's correct. Rita Marley's mom, has a home. I went there in my earlier months to attend an event, and I've been to Jamaica Village. So that's the extent of me traversing and actually being there. But I hear it's a popular place for Jamaicans when they come here. So your development is actually en route.
Yeah. So
200 homes.
right at the base of the mountain.
Wow.
Actually, a very good friend of mine who has a Jamaican great-grandfather. And apparently there was a Jamaican missionary enclave in Iburi that dates back to the 1800s.
Ah.
So there's a history. It's not a recent phenomenon.
Yes. 200 homes.
200 houses, I Mensa Park.
Houses.
Mostly townhouses.
Ah.
So what was unique about that development is it's probably one of the largest townhouse developments in Accra. But what we were able to do was increase densities, but still create a really nice open feel because there's a 2-acre park in the center of the community. So it's a nice trade-off. You've got enough kind of private space. You've got a little backyard to all the units. You can park right in front of your house, so you don't have that kind of claustrophobic apartment feel.
Yes.
But at the same time, you're building up those densities, which allows us to invest a bit more in the communal areas, in the civil infrastructure, so the roads are really well done. And it's been something that's really resonated with the diaspora because you're looking at a quality standard that's quite similar to what you'd find in any first world country.
200 houses nestled on how many acres? How many acres that
12
is?
and a half acres.
Wow.
Yeah, most people, they don't realize that you can achieve that feel with that density. But we'll find some time and swing through. But it feels very open and it's quite a lovely little community.
How many bedrooms?
Well, we've got there are a block of flats. Most of the townhouses are either 2-bedroom townhouses, the mid-terraces, and then you've also got 3-bedroom and 4-bedroom end units.
What's the price that those went for?
So they've escalated quite a bit. I think when we started the 3-bedroom units, we started those at about $150, and I think now 8 years on, they're probably closer to $200.
150,000 US?
Correct. Yeah.
And what's the size of the plot that the townhouse is on?
I don't have the plot size off the top of my head. The plots are, that's part of the trade-off. It's not a huge amount of land that the unit sits on, but the floor plan itself is quite spacious. So okay. we had a similar approach here, even though these are all single-story units. At Mensa Park, they are pretty much all townhouses. But it's a similar kind of density here, where we wanted to make sure that you've got plenty of living space.
Yes.
Right, but the plots are pretty efficient with their use of space.
Is it a gated?
It is.
Space? It's gated.
Yeah. With
security and all of that.
Security. There's a pool. There's a clubhouse.
Amenities around?
Yeah, absolutely. There's some schools in the neighborhood, some hospitals.
Kofi,
a mall just down the road.
A mall. Good. Kofi, one of the things that stuck out for me when I viewed a couple of your interviews is when you speak to affordable housing. And that is most needed at a time like this.
Absolutely.
So it brings me here to Pequasi Heights. And with Bernard, the sales manager, we looked at 42,000 for a shell. The owner personalizes the interior, but the exterior, you guys complete that. and then we have the finished product at 55,000 US dollars. In terms of logistics, it's really not that far from Accra. Yes? And so have you moved away from selling plots for owners to build strictly into building and selling, or you still do both
Well, my focus these days is on the development,
on the development?
but I think there's probably still quite an interest and a demand for plots as well. It's something that we're looking at probably for next year, is to take some land and develop, but to a higher spec in terms of the roads and the infrastructure. So I think there's something we could offer where we can use some of the learnings that we have from our development, where well, maybe you've got the plot, maybe we've developed the walls, make a little gated community, but then sell those plots individually as well. So that's something that we're looking at. We do have quite a bit of land in pretty interesting areas.
Okay.
But we're putting some plans together there. On the affordable housing front, I consider this a moderately priced development.
Yes.
I wouldn't call it, affordable is always a question of.
It's going to be relative, I suppose.
Affordable to whom? Alright, so I think to use the term affordable housing with confidence in the Ghanaian context,
Yes.
you probably need to be hitting around 35 to 25,000 USD. Just given the fact that people's incomes
Yes.
are typically not in US dollars.
True.
So I think for the diaspora, which
Yes.
is the community that a lot of our product is geared towards, they like this kind of price point. But it's something that personally I have a passion for, just getting for home ownership. I think just from a society perspective, that you need to have broad-based home ownership so that people feel like they have a stake in the society. And that's when you've got people that are acting most responsibly, feel that they're part of the society, that they're not kind of at the margins. So it's something that we need to figure out, but it's not an easy thing to do. So you can see the price points have gone from 200,000, we're currently at 42, 50,000, 55,000. I would love to have a product out there. And it wouldn't necessarily be for everybody.
Yes.
There's going to be a market that wants something more in
Yes.
this bracket, and there are folks for whom a $25,000 or $30,000 house would speak to them. So I'd love to be able to crack that nut. It's something that I've been. We've prototyped. We looked at every type of building technology, from using bamboo to using precast concrete to using laterite and compacted earth bricks and just different approaches. There's really no silver bullet. You've got to think about it in terms of design, you've got to think about it in terms of building material, you've got to be willing to make certain trade-offs. And what we found is it's not a linear demand curve. It's not as though you can just keep making the house smaller.
Correct.
What you end up doing is sometimes producing a product that nobody wants. That the people that can afford it don't want it, and the people that want it can't afford it.
Yeah.
So you need to figure out what the right mix is and what the right trade-offs. But I think we're pretty close.
Okay.
So I'm looking forward to rounding that corner.
I think that would be for me a total game changer, because at the end of the day, Kofi, you have persons out there in the global space, we promote in Ghana hardcore, and everybody's budget is different. Everyone comes from different walks of life and how they earn their income. It's not one size shoes fit all. And so if there is a developer that certainly can offer you what's close to where your budget is. And yes, I remember I alluded to this on another video I saw of you a couple of days ago, that the craftsmanship is still on point.
Yeah.
Because that's also key, so you're not getting a house that's 50,000 or 45,000 and it's going to fall apart. and you think that's too cheap because of what you're seeing in another space coming in from the diaspora. So if you're able to do that, I still think it's a game changer, because at the end of the day, you can't put everything that you own in a house. How are you going to live?
Sure.
Beyond that, the house has to be maintained, etc. Kofi, financing. Do you offer financing for the diaspora?
We don't. We do work with banks that provide mortgages.
Okay.
It's it's a challenging process. Most of our buyers pay cash.
Okay.
We do have a few payment plans. We've got a 2-year and a 1-year payment option.
Could you explain, please?
I mean, it's there. You basically you put down about a 40% deposit, and
Okay.
then you spread the payments on a monthly basis.
Okay.
But that can be negotiated too.
So the higher deposit, the shorter the time period, basically.
Sure, sure. Or you could have, you know, it could be a 40% deposit, but you could increase the payments so that you're paying it off in 6 months, or you're paying it off in a year. So there are different payment plans that we offer. But what we find is that typically people like to try and buy it within 6 months.
Yes. Yes.
And the other thing that's interesting about the market here is that there's a lot of incremental housing development. That typically, if you're in Ghana and you're buying, or if you're building, first of all, most people aren't buying houses. Most people are building their own houses. I would say 85% of the homes in Ghana are self-built. They're not built by developers. And people that are building houses themselves, they build incrementally.
Right.
They build over a period of time. So Ghana has looked like a construction site for the last 20 years.
Because when I came, I said, everywhere you go, construction, construction, construction.
Exactly, but what you're actually seeing is people's savings accounts. That our currency depreciates, and oftentimes depreciates quickly.
Yes.
So if you're sitting on local currency, you want to put that money to work quickly. So it's a hedge against inflation. People are buying cement, they're buying iron rods, they're building their foundations, even if it's going to sit for 6 months. They know that, okay, I've put $10,000 to work, I've put 100,000 CDs to work, I can see it, it's not going to disappear, or they're not going to tell me that my bond requires a haircut, you know. So there's strategies that people are employing. The other thing it does is it secures the land.
Yeah.
So that if you're active on a piece of land, you're showing occupation, you're showing ownership, you're engaged in the property, it's less likely to be encroached. So I think that incremental housing, we try to look to see what the process is.
Yes.
Organically in the market, and then fit ourselves to that. So that's what was the genesis for the shell concept.
Yes.
We
Yes.
say, okay, well look, there are sometimes you've got people in the diaspora, they want to get on the property ladder, they don't want to miss out on the opportunity, but they may not have all the money, they may not want a mortgage. So let's sell something a little bit more inexpensive, and then give people the flexibility if they don't plan to be in Ghana for the next 2 years. Fine, they've got the house, the bones of the house are good, the land titles is sorted, it's in a nice community, and then they can finish the house on their own time when the funds are available and to their own taste.
Good. Excellent. Kofi, wrapping up. I would love.
Diane,
We're wrapping up, but
I feel like we could chat for hours.
Kofi, I ever tell you what they call mate? No. Yeah. No. We may chat for days, so we're wrapping up now.
Sounds good.
Kofi, before we go, in closing, could you please share the do's and don'ts? A lot of people coming in from the diaspora. Many are builders. They're doing stuff. Tell them, and for that matter, the prospective buyer, prospective homeowner, the do's and don'ts when you are looking into building and land acquisition.
Wow, that's a big question.
You'll condense it.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, you could write a whole thesis on that.
Your top fives.
Top five. I would say the first thing is if you're building on your own, it's probably going to cost you more than you anticipate. So you're going to need to do your homework and speak and study and investigate and know who you're dealing with on the construction side, because it's a learning journey. And you are going to be, you will probably have a vision. The people who you're going to try and motivate to materialize your vision may not share the same vision, so you may have to meet them someplace in the middle. I would say it's also helpful to work with, from the land perspective, it's helpful to work with a lawyer so that you're doing your due diligence. It's oftentimes not straightforward and not Cartesian. There are 1,000,001 ways that the problems can emerge. There can be issues from the site plan. There can be issues from the ownership. It could be issues even at the Lands Commission. There are lots of challenges through the whole process. You need to really keep your arms around the process. I would also recommend, generally, we actually spoke about this on the way in, was that oftentimes I think people, they're building too big. You know, it's, I see a lot of 7-bedroom homes that are empty, and they're also oftentimes not well built. To get somebody, to get the right team to build you a staircase that's straight and level may be more challenging than you think. So sometimes you're better off making things less complex and more exact.
Kofi, I know we said we're wrapping up. I said wrapping, not wrapped up. Finally, what would you say to anyone in the global space thinking about the continent and wanting to start at Destination Ghana? Sell Ghana for me in 2 minutes, please, Kofi.
Sure. I don't think it's a tough sell, particularly with what's going on in the world. There's a fact that was on my radar a couple of weeks ago that hasn't really made much waves in the Western press, and that is that the share of the world trade shifted. That the BRICS nation, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, have now eclipsed the G7 in terms of their share of global trade, adjusted for purchasing power, which is shocking. This is something that's been going on. You've seen, I think it was the G7, this is your Western countries in Europe and the US, they controlled over 50% of global trade in the 80s. And that's reduced now to 30%, with the BRICS nations now at 31%. So the polarities are shifting, and Africa is a complete outlier when it comes to population. That every other part of the world is aging. There are more children in Nigeria than there are in all of Europe.
Facts.
So this is the future workforce. This is the future China. Right? So it's going to make a lot more sense. I think if you are a person of African descent, you've got an inside lane. And people are coming from all over the world now.
Correct.
So to me, it doesn't make a lot of sense to abdicate the throne and be stuck as a second-class citizen in somebody else's country when you are actually entitled to a seat at the table.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well said. Entitled to a seat at the table. Kofi, this was an absolute pleasure on my part. And I thank you, and I trust my audience appreciates this one-on-one. I wish you well, and I hope we meet up again to see what else is going on.
I'm looking forward to it.
Kofi, if they want to find you, the audience want to find you, can you just put out where they can find you on the, your
Sure, the
handles?
easiest way to get in touch with me is actually on LinkedIn.
Okay.
So Kofi Anku at LinkedIn. That's probably the best way to get me.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Merase. God bless.